Hi, I'm Ernie Conover. I'd like to take a few moments today to talk about scarf joints. There's the old joke about a carpenter that cut the board off twice and it was still too short, and he needed to get out the board stretcher. Well, you can stretch a board under some circumstances, and that's where the scarf joint comes into play. It happens just because you're building a piece of furniture and you kind of run out of wood. You have some pieces that'll work, but they're not long enough. And you can sometimes scarf those together just fine. Another instance is repair, a broken table leg from whatever circumstances. You can often repair that with a scarf joint. Let's just pretend that we've got this piece for a table leg and we've got this defect we can't live with. We don't want that. So we will first of all find another piece of wood the same size. These are two pieces of ash, and we're going to cut this piece off right at that defect. Right, we've cut that off, and I built a jig to cut our scarf joint, and I did that by just taking a piece of plywood and cutting a 3/4 inch by a little more than a 1/4 inch thick piece of poplar and planing it with a hand plane until it fit the slot in my table saw perfectly. It slid nicely, but not much play. I then, with a little Titebond original and 3 wire nails, attach that to the edge of this piece of plywood. And then I made a short cut into the blade in the table saw. I then lightly nailed 2 strips of wood that'll allow me to set pieces in and make a perfect scarf cut through that. I have put some double-side tape on this piece, and I will stick that down onto the surface of my jig. Let's go into the table saw. All right, here's our second piece. It's double-side taped in place. I've got everything ready for the glue up. I have my 2 scarf joints cut perfectly. And in former times, you'd have to do a good amount of skillful hand planing to make these joints smooth and fit properly. But with the jig I've shown you and a good carbide table saw blade today, the cut's so accurate, it's so smooth that you can just go right to the glue. It really saves a lot of time. I've used the dogs on my bench to limit this, that it can't slide this way when I put glue in the joint and clamp it. Very simple. If you don't have a bench with dogs, you can simply take a piece of plywood and put 2 nails to do the same thing. I'm going to use Titebond Original because this is a demonstration. It's not going outside. I'm going to use a glue spreader now to spread that glue out nicely. I've got paper on my bench to protect the bench. I've got that lined up nicely. There. We need to wait at least an hour for Titebond Original before we take the clamps off, and we shouldn't stress the piece for 24 hours. I've given this glue a full 24 hours to dry, and I've hand planed the billet up so that it's pretty nice, and you can see that it's pretty hard to see our scarf joint now. And to prove to you that a well done scarf joint with a good quality glue is very strong indeed, I'm going to turn this into a table leg. There, I've turned it round in preparation to shape it into a table leg, and you can see that this repair has become pretty much invisible in here. I've often repaired table legs brought to me on valuable antique furniture, often where one of the legs sat in a barn in water and like rot got into it, and you have to replace a piece of it. With antiques, you try to not replace any more than you have to. And by putting this in the jig we just saw in the table saw, you can make your scarf cut through the leg, and then you can just take a piece of matching wood of the same species and make a similar cut on that, glue them together, turn the rest of the leg like it was originally, and it becomes a fairly unnoticeable repair. The big thing is that you can't glue end grain, but by doing that long scarf, somewhat the longer the better, through here we can get pretty much the strength of the original wood there, and it will be a long-lasting and good repair. It's important that the two pieces fit very well, that you have good contact between them, that you use a good glue, and that you clamp it and wait sufficient time for the glue to dry. Great repair technique.